Hi guys, let's talk about 3D primitives in Clip Studio and what you can use them for. There are two types: the basic shapes that come with the program, the plane, the cube, the sphere, the prism, and the pyramid. And then there are the user-made primitives. Generally, the user-made primitives are floors, light sources, or magic effects. But let's talk about the normal ones first. You can find them here in your Materials tab under the 3D Primitives tag. For now, let's ignore the tree, I'll talk about it in a minute. To use them, just click and drag your asset to your canvas. This will create a 3D layer. To move around and control your asset, you have the first three icons to control the camera view. With the first one, you can pan around 360 in all directions. The second one will let you do light movements, and the third one will let you come closer or further from the object. And this is different from using the wheel in your mouse. If you use the wheel in your mouse, you will see the view will deform a bit, which can create a very interesting angle sometimes, but it's not the best when building. Now here is a very brief intro to 3D assets usage before we move on. As you can see, we have these other icons. These 5 icons are to move the object. This one will let you freely move the object around. The next one will let you freely rotate it. The other 2 are to tilt back and forth and rotate on its own axis respectively. And this one is to freely move the object around, but always above ground level. Now this last one is the magnet. This is basically a snap ruler or a kind of aid that will let you know when the objects are aligned. I usually have this one on and I find it very useful. Now to the fun part. What is this for? Well, mostly placeholders or light 3D building. So when you click the asset, you get normal arrows and curves, but you also get these boxes. This will let you customize your primitive. Make it taller or shorter with the green ones, longer or shorter, thinner or thicker with the red and blue ones. As well as with other 3D assets, when you add a new primitive, it will be added to the same 3D layer. You can copy and paste it with Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and they will appear in the same position in the same layer. And then you can simply move it around and place it where you wish. Now the more useful stuff is in the Tool Property panel. This will open to the left. Here you can make a lot of changes. The more useful are the angle changes with the sliders. You can also change the perspective, change the number of divisions, those lines in the primitive. You can also change the color of each primitive, the opacity and the transparency, which can come in very handy. Speaking of, I love this part, you can map the image to your primitive by expanding the Object Color panel. Here it will let you pick between a normal image or an image from Materials. Since this is all in one layer, you get to play around with the light sources. In the same panel you will see the options Applied Light Source, Cast Shadow on Ground. This will let you toggle on and off the shadows for each shape, but also by going to the light source you will see that if you play around with the light settings, all the primitives will be affected. The last thing in this panel is the Panorama option. To be honest, I had no idea what it did, so I had to play around and find out. And it turns out it lets you add a background that acts as a panorama. Who would have thought? You just have to pick an image that will be noticeable. I got this one from the default assets. As you can see, the panorama is in the same layer as the primitives, so it moves all at once, so keep that in mind when you are designing a background. Oh, and remember the tree from the beginning? Yeah, well, this tree acts a bit different. It's flat, it doesn't matter how much you move the camera around, it will always look the same. So let's do some basic sketching with the primitives and then something a bit more advanced to see the potential they have. Now that we have our basic shapes, we can save it all as a 3D object, either for personal use or to publish it for others to enjoy in the asset store by going to Edit, Register Material and Images. Here you will save it under the name you want and it will show up as an asset in the Material panel. This is great if you want to build a very heavy room and need a perspective for certain scenes and don't want to redraw it or rebuild it every time. You can also adjust each part individually. Now, as I mentioned before, you can also use primitives made by other users by downloading them from the asset store. They work the same way and they are great for lighting effects. And just like normal primitives, they can be mixed with other 3D stuff, like characters or imported assets. I forgot to mention, this is just if the primitive is not a vector layer. If it's a vector layer, you won't be able to put it in the same layer as before. Well, this was the basics of primitives. Hope you guys liked this video. Leave a like and subscribe for doing art.